Well, I hope that was helpful. You know, sometimes even some very fine golfers can be really aided by some of those fundamental reviews. So if that's a lot different than the way you've been playing them and you've had some sort of lack of success with your basic chip shots, then go ahead and practice and try to incorporate those fundamentals into your technique. It'll really be helpful. Now, of course, on the golf course, it's not always so easy. Sometimes I have some really tough situations that face me. This is not a super tough one, but it's not an easy one either. This is one where I need a little bit of extra height to fly it up on top of the green and then to get it to stop pretty quickly. Now, one of the things about playing soft shots is that the fine player is really trying to play the most consistent shot possible. That's why they won't lob the ball way up into the air unless they absolutely have to. So I'm going to teach you one of my favorite shots today, and this is one I call a modified lob shot. Now, the modified lob shot is one that is played in sort of a subtle fashion. You're working off your basic chipping stance with a lofted club like a sand wedge or a lob wedge. You're going to modify that technique just a little bit so that the motion still feels like a basic chip shot, and yet we get a nice soft shot to come out of that. So here's what you're going to do when you're playing the modified lob shot. What you're looking to do is you're going to go ahead and work off of your basic chipping stance. That's going to have the ball positioned just off your right toe with the handle a little bit forward and the weight forward. Now, when I play this shot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the ball just slightly more forward in my stance. Now, you might be struck by the subtlety of the motion here. I'm just doing it a little bit. Ball slightly more forward in my stance. I'm going to go ahead and set the handle a little more straight up and down as well. Now, with the handle more straight up and down, the club is going to have a little more loft on it, so that's going to help to send it up in the air as it is. The second thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and lay the blade open just a little bit. That increases the loft just a little bit more. Once I do that, the ball is going to tend to go a little bit out to the right, so I have to aim myself a little bit to the left. Now, I really want to emphasize subtlety here. This is something that your playing partners should almost not be able to see, that you're just opening it a little bit, aiming a little bit to the left, and those little factors like having the ball more forward, the handle less forward, the club face a little more open, those all add together to create a higher and softer shot. Now, one of the things I want you to really watch out for is that the stance, with the weight more evenly distributed, the handle's not quite so far forward, I don't have as steep an angle of approach. So I need, with the club skimming the ground a little bit, I need some grass underneath the ball. You can't play this shot if it's sitting on hard-packed ground where there's no grass. So make sure you have a little bit of room underneath the ball. The club has to slide underneath it just a little bit to get it up into the air. So that's going to be an important factor also. You have to check that lie just a little bit. Now, what happens if it is sitting on hard-packed ground and you've got to get it up? Well, that might be one of those situations where you have to make a 20-foot putt for par. So don't try and force the issue. But if you do have the lie, and this is the situation, then that's how you'll play it. Ball a little forward, handle not quite so far forward, club face a little open, aiming yourself a little more to the left to compensate for that. Now, once you do that, the swinging motion is quite the same as our normal motion, where the club is going to brush the ground after the ball. And that's really important. A lot of people will try to scoop the ball up into the air with their swing. Well, the swing never gets the ball in the air. It's always the loft of the club. To make use of the loft of the club, we have to hit the ball solidly, and that means we're going to have to catch the ball first and then the turf. If you make any effort to scoop it up into the air with your swing, that's a formula for mishitting it. It's also really common to do that because it seems like there must be some little trick that you must do to get it airborne just a little bit, not even a dot. You're doing it all with the club face and letting the club catch the ground after the ball. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to go ahead and make those subtle stance changes, making a normal swing, and right before I'm going to hit a shot like this, I'll always make practice swings to make sure that I'm hitting the ground in the right place. This is a common error that I see where people will make a practice stroke and hit the ground too early. So we have to watch out what we ask ourselves to do. You may just get it. So what we're going to do is to make some practice swings after the ball there. The club is hitting the ground after. And then if I can make the same motion, I'll be in good shape. Now you might ask yourself, what distance would I use this shot from? Well, this shot I use up to about 30 yards to get a little bit of extra height on it and a little extra stopping power. Once you start to get into 40 and 50 yards, that's when you have a lot of backspin on the ball, and the backspin will help you to stop the ball quickly. Now this shot is going to have some backspin on it, but once you start to get in that 40-50 yard range, now it's really backspinning quite a bit. So this is a shot that's used predominantly around the green. Now why wouldn't I take a lob wedge to use this? Well, I can sometimes, of course. I have a sand wedge right now, and you know, as I've talked about in many of the series, I'm looking to bring the ball in as low as I can and use as straight a face club as I can. So laying the 56-degree wedge open just that little bit maybe makes it about a 58, not all the way to 60. If you use the 60-degree wedge with this motion where you lay it open just a little bit and play the modified lob, it will go that much higher and softer. This is a shot that I use quite often because it's really easy to reproduce. It produces a soft shot, and again, contact is no problem. That really wicked high super lob shot, yeah, it's kind of neat to watch on TV, but it's really hard to reproduce. So you're going to like this one. Now let's go over and take a look at what happens when we need that super high shot.